Dozens of parents who sent their kids off to summer camp in the Texas Hill Country west of Austin are now planning funerals for those same children after massive flooding on the Guadalupe River wiped out a huge portion of that camp.
ABC News correspondent Jim Ryan is joining us from the epicenter of that tragedy, Kerrville in Texas. Jim, we understand the death toll went up this morning.
Well, it did. Overnight, 80 people we know have died from this, 68 of them here in Kerr County, but the fatalities were spread across 5 counties altogether. This river flooded. We had a couple of others that also flooded, but this extreme flash flooding event, it was unprecedented in the damage that it's done, in the speed with which the water rose up. Of course, it happened at the worst time possible, LaDonna. Middle of summer, a holiday weekend when the campsites and campgrounds were filled with people, and in the middle of the night when no one was awake.
Oh, and we'd imagine that the death toll is going to rise, Jim, with all the people that are still missing, right?
I think that's safe to assume. We know how many kids were at these summer camps, and 11 are still missing from one particular camp. But in terms of who might have been camping, in their RV or in a tent or something alongside the river just by themselves, there's no way of knowing how many people might have been out there.
So if you could, I was raised in Texas in the Plains, and so I know how bad these storms can get. Just paint a picture of what happened prior to that flooding, if you could.
Well, you're familiar with the hill country then, and it's called that because it's quite hilly. A lot of topography here like no place else in the whole state, essentially. And we've had a drought here for some time, so the ground is packed and dry and hard. We had moisture coming up from the Gulf, moisture coming over from the Pacific through Mexico, and moisture coming down from the South Plains. And it all parked itself right over the hill country. So as the torrential rain came down, up to 10 inches in some places, it just washed down those hillsides into the tributaries, creeks, into the Guadalupe River, and created a 28 to 30-foot wall of water that just pushed downstream, taking everything with it, LaDonna.
Deadliest flooding in maybe 100 years or so. Yeah. This is really tragic. We're talking with ABC's Jim Ryan in Kerrville, Texas. It sounds like, Jim, this is a tragedy that really couldn't have been avoided or mitigated because this flood was so sudden and swift that no one could have done anything in time, really?
Well, that's true. Nobody could have expected that it would be this intense. And again, it happened in the middle of the night. So even if people had warnings, they might not have gotten those warnings because they were fast asleep. And so, it just a convergence of some really, really awful conditions.
ABC News correspondent Jim Ryan from the epicenter of that tragedy, which is in Kerrville, Texas. And having been raised in the Plains just a little bit south of Amarillo, the sudden summer storms that come up, these thunderstorms and tornadoes, you really kind of associate Texas disasters with tornadoes. And in reality, it's the flooding that's so dangerous. You get warnings for tornadoes. You have sirens to let you know what's going on. But this kind of flooding, I can't think of any real system that they might have in place that might, send. If you hear a klaxon, you automatically think tornado.
I lived in Dallas a number of years ago, and we spent a lot of time in San Antonio and in Austin, and that's that whole area there. Kind of to the north, to the northwest is the hill country from San Antonio, and you don't think of this as a place where the Coast Guard would be doing much, but there is they're calling this guy an absolute American hero. He's a New Jersey native. He is on his first rescue mission as a Coast Guard swimmer, and he has helped save 165 people. Isn't that unbelievable?
That is, just out of this kind of tragedy, and this is truly tragic. Just hearing one good story sometimes makes a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, 26-year-old Scott Ruskin, by the way, is the name of that Coast Guard.
Thanks for watching Arizona's Morning News. Click to watch more from KTAR News and hit the button in the middle to subscribe.